Has the TV show The Lost Symbol finally, after hundreds of years of secrecy, uncovered a secret Masonic symbol? The answer's coming up on Symbols and Secrets. Welcome to Symbols and Secrets, the viewer's guide to Dan Brown's The Lost Symbol, the show that is streaming right now on Peacock TV. You can download the app in your app store or go to peacocktv.com and subscribe and watch the show that follows along Dan Brown's runaway bestseller, The Lost Symbol. This follows a young Robert Langdon as he goes through DC trying to unravel a Masonic conspiracy and save his mentor. And this show, we're going to go through each and every episode and we're going to pull out the Masonic symbols and we're going to tell you which ones are real and which ones they're kind of having a little fun with for the story. And by the way, no problem with that at all. It's going to be a lot of fun. So whether they're using these symbols in their real context or they're playing around with them a little bit to tell the story or there's stuff that's made up entirely, Masons are having a lot of fun watching the show, just like everyone else. So if there's a particular symbol you want to know a little bit more about and we miss it here in the vlog, drop a comment below. And while you're there, make sure you subscribe and like the video. Helps us out a lot, especially if you're a brother Mason. Come on, do a distressed-worthy brother a favor, would you? Subscribe and like the channel if you would, please. Let's get into episode number 2, which is called the Araf. And I'm not going to explain to you what that means. They cover that in the show, and I'm promising you here and now and for all time, you're not going to get any spoilers out of me. We're not going to give anything away. We're just going to talk about those symbols. Right in the opening scenes, Robert Langdon and Catherine Solomon finally open up that envelope that we've been seeing in the trailers and we saw in episode 1. They break that wax seal and open up the envelope, and inside they find a page with some Hebrew writing on it, which they discover rather quickly to be a page from the Book of Kings, and it is specifically from the Judgment of Solomon. And this is about 1 minute and 9 seconds in. And I want to point this out, not necessarily because there's a Masonic symbol here on the page. Those are Hebrew characters, obviously. But I wanted to stop at the mention of Solomon because I hear a lot of people say, oh, I hear you Masons worship Solomon. First and foremost, Masons as a whole don't worship anybody. Masonry is not a religion. Solomon is central to a lot of our legends and to a lot of our teachings because we talk about the building of King Solomon's temple. And the reason we're talking about that is we're using it in a metaphorical sense because we're talking about men learning to build themselves and become a little bit better. And so we're using King Solomon and the legend of King Solomon's temple to help illustrate some of the points that are brought up in our teaching. So quick stop right there just at the mention of King Solomon. At 4 minutes, 11 seconds, this is perhaps the biggest reveal in this episode, in my opinion. And Agent Sato of the CIA, she pulls up that picture of Zachary Solomon, and he's there on the floor of the prison, as you see. And on the wall, clearly, is that emblem. We've seen it a few times in the trailer, and that is the triskelion, which Agent Sato says that's a very important symbol to Freemasons. Yeah, that symbol has been used in Celtic lore. It's been used in different religions. It's used on a lot of different flags. It was even used in an episode of Star Trek. However, the one group, oddly, that seems to have never used the triskelion is the Masons. Masons have never used that symbol. It's not a symbol that's included in any Scottish Rite teachings. It's not used in any York Rite teachings. In fact, I've asked several different Masonic scholars whose whole job in life it is to know this kind of stuff, and they looked at it and said, absolutely not. It is not Masonic in any way, shape, or form. So this symbol is one they are just totally having fun with, and I can't wait to see where they take it personally. But if you think this is a secret Masonic symbol, at around the 5-minute mark, we get our next Masonic mention, and we have now met the architect of the Capitol, Warren Bellamy, expertly played by Tyrone Benskin. He's a famous actor. He's been in 300, very famous for a lot of his stage stuff, and he's doing a great job as the architect. He's kind of my favorite character right now, playing the architect of the Capitol. But They are talking about a painting by a guy named Hieronymus Bosch. No, not that Hieronymus Bosch. That's Titus Welliver playing Hieronymus Bosch, the detective from the TV show and from the books, but a different Hieronymus Bosch. This Hieronymus Bosch, who was a Flemish painter in the 1500s, and he painted something called the Wayfarer. And this painting, which you see here, is long said to have had a lot of Masonic emblems hidden inside of it. And so at a quick glance, I'll tell you that I do see a bunch, and people have counted several dozen Masonic emblems in this painting that they mention. And the problem here is, and I actually had to look this up. This is one I totally didn't know. So thanks to the writers and producers of The Lost Symbol for giving me something fun to learn about. The problem with this is that this painting was done about 200 years before Freemasonry as we know it today was established. We trace the beginnings of Freemasonry formally to around 1717. Now, there were British secret societies and things before that, and secret societies kind of all over Europe. And by secret societies, I don't mean to imply anything nefarious, more like these were groups and clubs that popped up. And they were known to have used symbols that Masons later adopted. So is it possible that this guy belonged to one of those lodges or belonged to one of those organizations when he painted this? Absolutely is. And we're going to take a little bit longer look at this painting further on down the road in Symbols and Secrets. But for right now, just know that, yes, this mention of the Wayfarer, this very well may be a legitimate Masonic connection. At 6 minutes and 49 seconds into episode 2, we get a really great look at that Masonic pyramid again and that Masonic cipher on the outside of it. And just a few seconds before this, Robert Langdon, played by Ashley Zuckerman, says something about a Masonic pyramid legend where there's a pyramid that's being built so tall that God himself can touch it, and so on and so forth. That is not a Masonic legend that I am familiar with. I have heard that legend similarly told, but not connected directly to Freemasonry. Now, is it possible that there is a Masonic rite somewhere in the world that mentions that or teaches that or uses that? Yes. But is it something that modern Masons are using on a regular basis? No, that is not a story that is told in modern Masonic lodges. A couple of symbols that come at us pretty fast, and I want to make mention of those. First, I got called out, which was kind of my plan. I left a symbol out of the video for episode 1, and basically it's this symbol here. It's a picture of George Washington in his Masonic garb, whether that's a painting or a lithograph or a print or exactly what that is in this case, I don't know. There are virtually dozens and dozens of these out there, and it's George Washington in all his Masonic garb, and he is, bordered by some other Masonic symbols. And so there are lots and lots of versions of this out there. I'm not familiar with this particular one, so if this is one that is well known and you know what it is, brothers, drop me a line. I would love to know exactly what it is so we can identify it. This may be one that the producers made up because it is used as a cover for the safe inside Peter Solomon's house, and so that's why we saw it in episode 1. And I left it out on purpose, hoping somebody would call me out on it, and they did, and luckily it came back here in episode 2 for me to be able to bring up. Literally a few frames after that, and I'm talking right around the 11:11 mark, see a couple of different things in this picture. First of all, that is a Masonic apron there, and hanging in front of it, that triangle, that silver triangle, that is a Masonic jewel. Now, in a lot of blue lodges, not all blue lodges, and when we say blue lodges, we're talking about lodges that handle the first 3 degrees of Masonry: the entered apprentice, the fellowcraft, and the master mason degree. That triangle that's there would be worn by an officer around his neck, and generally speaking, in most lodges, not all, there are some differences from state to state, that is worn by the senior and junior deacons, so you can kind of think of them as some mid-level officers. The triangle is obviously not exclusive to Freemasonry, but it is a symbol that Masons use for a lot of different reasons. And you could do a 2-hour documentary on just the many uses of the triangle and its symbolism throughout all the centuries. The apron, on the other hand, is a little more specific in nature. Now, In Masonic lodges, all Masons wear aprons, but that emblem there, that is called the triple tau, and that is the bringing together of the letter T and the letter H, and the words are, I can't pronounce them, I'll be honest with you. It's the Templar Hierosolym, but basically it's emblematical of the temple at Jerusalem. So again, we're talking about King Solomon's temple. Now that symbol, especially in the United States, is mostly used by the Royal Archmasons, which is part of the York Rite. So in order to join the York Rite, you have to first join a regular, what we call Blue Lodge. And so once you get those first 3 degrees of Masonry, there's other things that you can learn. I am a member of the Scottish Rite of Freemasonry. I'm also a member of the York Rite, but the channel that you're watching is the Scottish Rite of Freemasonry. So we do those degrees that are the 4th through the 32nd, and then again the 33rd. And then the York Rite has its own separate set of degrees. And again, you can think of the degrees as different lessons, if you will. It doesn't mean that one person outranks another. In this scene, Warren Bellamy spills the beans about the Leviathan group. That Leviathan cross. I'm not going to give you any spoiler about what the Leviathan cross is all about. I did a whole video on the Leviathan cross. It's linked below, and you can check it out and get the exact meaning of that. But Warren Bellamy, the architect of the Capitol, who identifies here as a Freemason, says that this is a secret group of Freemasons who were sworn to do something. I will tell you specifically that Freemasons, by and large, are not permitted to form secret groups without the permission of their Grand Lodges. That is strictly forbidden. Kudos to the producers of The Lost Symbol for adding another fun twist to a story a lot of us have read already, but there is not a chance that this is in any way real or that there are these secret groups of Masons protecting things. I know you're thinking, well, it's not like you'd come out on YouTube and tell us. You're just gonna have to take my word for it at this point, because this is for fun, for a story, and not reality.
Danger, Will Robinson! Danger! No, Will Robinson! Danger!
Okay, before I go any further, I want to be very clear. I'm not going to give away any element of the story in what I'm about to show you. But by showing this one symbol to you and showing you its location, it could tip the hand just a little bit. And since I want you guys to have fun watching The Lost Symbol and then come back here and learn a little bit more, I don't want to give away anything. So if you have not watched the show yet, go do that. And when you get past this part, come on back and I'll explain it to you. You back? Okay, good. So this symbol, I'm not going to explain to you what it's on. If you've not watched the show, we're going to focus solely on that symbol there. That is an owl. Is that Masonic? No. Have Masonic lodges used the owl to symbolize wisdom and things of that nature? Yes, they have. Is there something in modern Masonic teachings that references the owl? No. This is one of those symbols that I kind of say is quasi-Masonic, sort of like the pyramid. This is one that Masons have used now and again, but it's not one that every Mason uses all the time, every day. You know, the square and compass, all the time, every day. The owl, a handful of lodges, a handful of brothers, and a handful of places. So I can't say that no Masonic lodges are using this. In fact, I know of one right now that is not far from me that uses this in their official seal, if you will. But in modern Masonic ritual, there is no reference to the owl. Brothers, if you know of one specifically and you're watching this, drop me a comment. I think we should maybe look at this a little more in depth and explore it a little bit more, because the owl is a symbol that has been used for centuries by a lot of different organizations, a lot of different groups, countries and things. So I don't want to just hammer it down and say, no, not Masonic, but it's not one that we're using every day, which I think is where I want to leave it for right now. That's an owl, not specifically Masonic, but there certainly are lodges that are using or borrowing that symbol. We find ourselves back in Peter Solomon's house at about the 24-minute mark, doing a little poking around. And there on the mantelpiece, you see some Masonic emblems sort of behind glass. That is an ornamental Masonic apron with several Masonic symbols on it. You can see them there. Those are all legitimate Masonic symbols. And that is the way that aprons used to be. They used to be fairly fancy typically when a Mason goes into a lodge meeting on a regular basis, usually once or twice a month, they wear very plain white aprons, super plain. The exception to that is men who are officers in the lodge or men who are past masters. That is, men who have served as the worshipful master of their lodge. They wear aprons that tend to be a little bit more ornamental. And in the kind of the next frame, we see Peter Solomon there with some other Masons, including Warren Bellamy, who we've met in this episode as the architect of the Capitol, and they're wearing some fancier aprons. Just a quick glance, I would say that this is supposed to be, these guys are the Grand Lodge, and Peter Solomon is meant to be the Grand Master here. They've not come out and said that, but like, if I were just to not know anything else and just glance at that, that would be my takeaway as a Mason. So whether that's what the producers are going for here or whether it's something else entirely, I don't know. But those ornamental aprons that you're seeing there would typically be worn by Grand Lodge officers, as well as those collars. And the fancier the collar usually, the higher the station in the officer's line. The last thing we're going to look at here in episode 2 is Peter Solomon's ring, which we've talked about previously. They talk about the double-headed eagle there. They talk about the 33. They talk about the triangle. Those are all elements that would belong on a Scottish Rite ring. The 33rd degree ring that is officially described is different. It looks a little more like this one here, and less like this one here. But that's not to say that a 33rd degree Scottish Rite Mason couldn't wear this ring. This is just more decorative than what is, I would say, described in the statutes. In other words, the rules of the Supreme Council of the Scottish Rite describe what the official 33rd degree ring is supposed to look like. It looks more like this than it does this ring with the fancy medallion thing on the top. I think it's called a signet ring. If I'm wrong, please correct me. If I'm correct, please let me know. I think it's called a signet ring. At any rate, when we turn that ring to the side, Bellamy looks at it and says, well, wait a minute. This character should be a yud, and it's not. Now, the yud is a Hebrew character, and it is the first character in the phrase Yud-He-Vah-He, Yahweh, the name of God, and it is not found specifically on a 33rd degree ring. The 14th degree ring, that is a ring that a man would receive when he gets the 14th degree in the Scottish Rite of Freemasonry, has a triangle and a yud on it. And we can get into a deeper explanation of that, but basically it's the initial of God. So a Scottish Rite Mason who is a 14th degree Mason is going to be wearing a ring that has that on there. Again, he doesn't have to wear it all the time. Nothing happens to him if he takes it off. It's just that that is the ring that he is given when he becomes a 14th degree Scottish Rite Freemason. It's not specifically found on the 33rd degree ring, which means that this must be a clue to the mystery which Robert Langdon pounces on and goes after that cipher. So those are all the Masonic references that I could find in episode 2. But I need you to keep me honest. If I missed one, or if there's something you think that's Masonic that I kind of glanced over, or something you want to know a little bit more about, drop a comment below, because I want to explore all of these things. Make sure you check out the videos on the Leviathan cross, and we've got some other great videos coming up. A lot of you have asked about the Chamber of Reflection, and so we do a real good deep dive with that. With Brother Arturo de Hoyos explaining the Chamber of Reflection and its various symbols and where they can be found. So check out those videos. They'll all be coming up. Make sure you subscribe and like the video. And again, if you've got any questions, drop them below. And hey, brothers, I want you to tell me your home lodge. If you're a Freemason, tell me your home lodge. Drop it in the comments below. I want to give your home lodges a shout out on an upcoming episode of Symbols and Secrets. I'm Maynard Edwards, 32nd degree, KCCH. I hope you're watching The Lost Symbol on Peacock TV, and I hope you'll keep watching Symbols and Secrets.